Welcome back to Plague Scythe Studios, everyone, and welcome to another Fractal Audio AX8 tutorial. Today I'm going to be showing you how to use it in the 4-cable method configuration. And if you don't know what 4-cable method is, it's being able to use effects both in front of and within the loop of a real amplifier, all with one unit. And there are several reasons you may want to do that with an AX8. Obviously, the AX8 is a phenomenal amp simulator, being able to use cabinet models and amplifier models to send to front of house or record with. But I know that there are several of you out there that also have really nice real amplifiers that you don't just want to abandon. And you might be using it for a stage sound or just for jamming, practice, whatever. So there is definitely a legitimate use case for a 4-cable method with the AX8. Now, Fractal Audio also makes the FX8, which is definitely made for 4-cable method since it doesn't have any of the built-in amp models or cab models, anything of that sort. But that's definitely not stopping the AX8 to be able to use this as well as a full-fledged amp modeler when you're not using it in this configuration. Before we get riffing through your real amplifier though, let's go through the AX8 edit software and set up a patch. This one's going to be quite a bit more simple than some of the stuff we've done on this channel. So really you have two sections. You're going to have your pedals and effects you want before your amplifier, like wahs and compressors and overdrive pedals, sometimes chorus flangers, depending on how you like that setup. And then you'll have your stuff in the loop. So you'll have your delays, reverbs, choruses, your other time-based effects there. And it's going to be divided by the effects loop block. So for me, I like to use stuff like a wah pedal, overdrive type clean boost, effects loop, delay, reverb, delay, a chorus somewhere in there. You'll set up these effects blocks the same way that you would do if you were using it with the built-in amp simulation, with one exception, maybe, depending on the type of amp you have. So amplifiers can have one of two types or both types at the same time of effects loop. They can be serial or parallel. Depending on which you have, you may have a wet and dry mix on your effects loop like the Mesa rectifiers do. And if that's the case, I personally like to set all my effects to fairly high, either 100% or a little bit below 100% in the modeler itself, and then control the wet mix on the amp. The reason I do it this way with amplifiers with parallel effects loops, because if you don't set the levels optimally, you're going to get a lot of noticeable phasing issues. Those phasing issues occur from the AX8 taking a couple milliseconds to process your delays and reverbs, all the things in the effects loop, because you have two parallel signals, one that is just a couple milliseconds off. That's where the phasing occurs. So I would play around with that, play around with your effects loop level and the levels of your delay, reverb, chorus, whatever you put in the effects loop as you go along. Now that you have your patch set up the way you would like it, ensure that out 1 and out 2 level knobs are turned up to max on your AX8. The out 2 controls the effects send. This is going to be stuff like your wah pedals, your overdrives, and you don't want to limit any of that signal going in, or else you're going to get an unrealistic low gain effect. And then out 2, once it's hooked up in the 4-cable method, will kind of control your overall volume. And this doesn't have to be maximum, but to get the full signal going through your amplifier, turn it up to max. Here's where we start plugging and chugging cables. And for those of you that have used 4-cable method on other effects units, bear with me. But for those of you that haven't, I'll lay it out plain and simply. With both your AX8 and amplifier turned off, plug in your guitar instrument cable, or in this case, a wireless receiver, into the instrument in of the AX8. Take a second 1/4 inch cable from the effects send of the AX8 and plug it into the input of your amplifier. Some amplifiers may have a passive or active input. I would go for the passive if you do. Plug a third cable into the effects send of your amplifier and plug the other end into the effects return of your AX8. Finally, plug one of the ends of the 4th cable into the output of the AX8 and the other end into the effects loop return of your real amplifier. And there you have it. That is a complete 4-cable method circuit. And if you unplug any one of these cables, it will kill your signal chain, so make sure they're all secure. Now turn on both of your devices and experience the full glory of 4-cable method with the AX8. But there's one thing missing that I'm not able to cover in this video, and that is channel switching via the AX8. The AX8 is able to communicate over MIDI cables with different amplifiers, and if you already have an amplifier with a MIDI input, then you're good to go. But something like a rectifier, especially the older models, do not have MIDI input. So to do this, you'd have to use a switch gizmo that is available online. It's not too expensive, but if you already have a type of pedal board set up and don't mind switching channels with an old-fashioned foot switch, then you can definitely do that as well. Now you can jam out with virtual effects both in front of and within the loop of your favorite amplifier, but that's actually not the only thing you can do with 4-cable method. And this next little trick doesn't actually even require to be able to have the full 4-cable setup. Say that I'm gigging with this setup, but there's a couple songs I need a classic Marshall sound. You can absolutely take a parallel path in your signal chain, put a amp block, but disable the supply sag. That way you turn off power amp simulation, and then just disable different parts of your signal chain depending on if you're using the amp block or if you're using the effects loop. By muting these different blocks of the signal chain, all you're really doing is changing from a 4-cable method setup like you see here to a preamp into the effects loop of a real amplifier. So what that allows you to do is get a different preamp sound while using the power tubes and your real cabinet. This setup can have a lot of advantages because not only are you able to utilize the built-in channels of your real amp, which may have anywhere from 2 to 6 depending on what kind of crazy amplifier you have, but you're also able to add 2 more virtual preamps to it. So you can turn a 2-channel amplifier into a 4-channel or add 2 completely different sounding high gain or clean amps. Really useful to be able to still use and be able to turn the real knobs on your amp but have the versatility of the AX8. If you need more versatility than that though, with different cabinet sounds, that sort of thing, you can definitely achieve it, but you're not going to achieve it with a classic half stack. But for a lot of us, this will do, and it's just a lot of fun to play with real amplifiers. I love modelers as much as the next guy, but being able to tweak physical knobs and feeling the crunch of the tubes through a real speaker is definitely something you can't take away from. So that is the 4-cable method and the derivatives of, and we'll definitely be covering other use cases of the AX8 down the road, but I thought I would get started with a really classic one, the 4-cable method, which you can use with about any multi-effects unit. Try it out today. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.